Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kia Hyundai channel. I'm your host Gabi. In today's video, we're going over a full in-depth walkthrough of everything the 2025 Kia K4 in the EX Plus trim gets you. And as the title suggests, it has just about everything you need, nothing you don't want, plus a few extras. So in today's video, this is completely live streamed. We're doing this in real time with no script. It's just me, the car, and you guys watching live. So the benefit of doing this as a live stream is anyone who's on the live chat right now can ask us questions as we're filming. So if there's anything you'd like to know about this particular car or anything in our lineup, leave it in the chat and I'll be sure to answer it before we end off today's video. It's worth noting today that it's just me filming, so I'm going to be explaining the car, showing you the car, and filming at the same time. We'll see how this goes. We'll first start off with giving you a couple of the just general K4 background info. So the K4 was introduced into our lineup this year to replace the Kia Forte. And I know what you're thinking. What? The Kia Forte is gone? It was here for so long. And I know, believe me, I was a huge Kia Forte fan. I actually had one myself and I regret selling it every single day. It was the best car I ever had and I miss it dearly. But the K4, it's completely different, let's be honest. It's got the same powertrain options, but introduces a whole new vision in Kia's lineup. It's completely redesigned from the ground up, so it's not just, an improved Forte, it's a brand new car. Let's take a look at the front end first, and we'll talk tech, safety, and everything that's standard, plus everything the EX Plus trim adds on. So on the front end, you'll see a lot of sharp horizontal lines. And I'm so glad they went with this style because it definitely widens and gives the vehicle a lot more road presence. Unlike the Kia Forte, which had a much more classic design approach, this looks completely modern and futuristic, and I personally love it. For your headlamps, you get full LEDs standard. So there's no more needing to upgrade to higher trim levels to get LEDs. And let me tell you, LEDs don't just make your car look modern, they're going to give you bulbs that last a whole lot longer than traditional halogen bulbs. They're also going to be bold, bright white, look good, and help you see better. For your daytime running lamp, that's this amber light right over here. That's going to double as your turn signal indicator and your hazard lamps, as well as your regular daytime running lamp. So as the vehicle is just in regular operation on a bright sunny day, you will always see those amber DRLs. For the front end, the EX Plus has some simple but classic design elements. So we have a little bit of a satin chrome on our upper grille area here, and then for your Kia badge, it's a brushed aluminum finish. Very classy design choices. I love the materials that they used, and there's no piano black or gloss black. What that means for you is it's not going to be a detailing nightmare, and as you own this car, it's not going to show scratches the same way gloss black does. So over time, especially in Canadian winters where we get salty roads and just a lot of general debris, it's going to hold up and look better a whole lot longer. Now, in terms of technology, we get a lot standard on the K4, and one of those major points will come down to this rectangular piece here. Now that piece, it's not just plastic, it's actually a radar plate. Now that radar plate will be utilized for things like smart cruise control, which is standard on this car. So if you set your cruise control to whatever speed your preference is, you can then set your following distance and the vehicle does the rest. So if you hit stop and go traffic, your vehicle will slow down, come to a complete stop, and then right back up to speed again, all while always maintaining a safe following distance. Never feels sketchy, and you can play around and adjust the parameters of it if you'd like a quicker acceleration time or reaction time. It is a very fantastic safety function that you don't have to upgrade for. However, you might want to upgrade to the EX Plus because we do introduce a couple nicer touches. Now I'll take a quick look at the wheels before we pop open the hood and talk powertrain, because one of the options you get on the EX and then of course the EX Plus is the upgraded wheels. So this is a 17-inch machine finished alloy that definitely adds a lot more style to the K4. The introductory trim level has a 15-inch steel wheel with the cover, so having a larger alloy definitely fits the vehicle's profile a bit better, and then is of course going to add, the look that you're going for. The tires will be a soleless all-season tire, and the dimensions are 225/45 R17s. The K4 is only available as front-wheel drive, and let me tell you, that is A-okay. A lot of people are under the impression that they absolutely need all-wheel drive, and my answer to that is always just get winter tires. Here in Ontario, we do get the odd bad winter, and I've always had a front-wheel drive sedan in my lineup that's had winter tires. I've never once been stranded, and I have a pretty rough commute to work. I'm gonna pop the hood to you guys to talk powertrain. So there's two powertrain options available on the Kia K4. The LX trim all the way up to the EX Plus that we have here today will come with a 2-liter, naturally aspirated inline 4. And this power plant will produce 147 horsepower with 132 pound-feet of torque. No, I'm not gonna pretend and say that those are race car numbers. You're not gonna win any races with this car. But what you will get is incredible fuel efficiency and certainly enough get up and go for your day-to-day drive. So for my typical drive, I do a lot of highway. And with my Forte, the 147 horsepower was more than enough for my lead foot. So here we go again, just a quick look at what's under the hood. It's a multi-point injection engine, which is fantastic because it's not gonna have the typical carbon buildup issues of a gasoline direct injection. It operates fine under heavy or low load and gives you plenty of enough power for your typical drive. It also remains efficient, just like I said, so you get about 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers combined. That's both highway and city driving. In my personal experience, you can really manipulate those numbers to do better depending on how you like to drive. And of course, with the EX and above trims, you also get a drive mode select. So what does that mean? Essentially, on your steering wheel, you will have a little button or a toggle that allows you to put your vehicle in sport mode or normal mode, and that will change the way the vehicle responds to your driving. So sport mode will feel a little bit more responsive based off throttle input, so I personally did really like that. And because this vehicle doesn't have a typical automatic transmission, it instead uses an IVT, not to be confused with the CVT, they are mechanically different. The car will always find a perfect simulated gear shift to give you the efficiency you're looking for, but also the power delivery that you're looking for. Another benefit of IVTs is you don't have that typical droning or rubber band-like feeling that CVTs have. It's quick to respond and it feels like an automatic should. All right, let's go back to the wheels real quick just so I can talk about the brakes on this car. So we get disc brakes all around, with larger ventilated disc brakes up at the front and then solid disc brakes in the very rear. A couple nice tech functions that we get and some upgrades to the EX Plus is for our windscreen. It's gonna look like the windshield of every other K4, except now it's upgraded to an acoustic and laminated glass, which is gonna give you a quieter cabin experience. For your mirrors, and this is an upgrade on the EX below, we have blind spot detection, so that's what that little caution icon is going to add on, and essentially that will illuminate if there's ever a vehicle in your left or right blind spot. It'll light up the mirror, but also give you an audible alert inside the cabin if it senses that there is a car in your blind spot while you're indicating. If you then go to try to change lanes while there's a car there, it'll correct you and keep you in your originating lane to avoid a blind spot collision. That's not the only active safety that's on this car. We're also gonna have forward collision avoidance, which is going to utilize the camera located in the windshield. See if I can show you guys, probably not, but there is a camera there and it's gonna constantly watch what's happening ahead of you. If there's a pedestrian, a cyclist, or of course another car that it senses your vehicle may hit, it'll warn you with an audible alert, and then if you fail to react as a driver, the vehicle will pitch in and apply brake force to avoid said collision. I see in the chat right now a lot of people are talking about hatchbacks, and the K4 will soon be available as a hatchback. I'm anticipating 3 trim levels. Mind you, nothing has been officially confirmed yet, so this is purely speculation, but hear me out, because sometimes I'm right on this stuff. I think we'll have 3 trim levels of the hatchback. One will likely be called an EX or an EX Plus, and it'll have the same power plant we have here today, so the 2-liter naturally aspirated engine. Then I think we'll get 2 turbocharged options, just like what we see on the sedan. One will likely be called the GT Line Turbo. The other will probably be the GT Line Turbo Limited. Those will of course have the 1.6-liter turbo that the sedan has, but it'll be a hatchback, and that power plant produces 190 horsepower with 195 pound-feet of torque. All right, now back to this car. If you're curious about the price, it's priced at $28,295 Canadian. And the K4 itself actually starts at just around $24,000 for its entry trim, which keeps it very close in line with what people were paying for the Forte, but you get a lot more car with this vehicle. Dimension-wise, it may look a whole lot bigger than the Forte in camera or on camera, and it is slightly larger, but it's still a compact, so it's still easy to drive around. I mean, you're not driving a yacht or a school bus. It's easy to park and easy to fit into your lifestyle, but you do have more comfort. Just taking a quick look around the sides before we check out the tailgate and cargo room, you can see a lot of sharp lines on this vehicle. The front end is very wide and muscular, and then once you get towards the rear, it starts to stick out a little bit, so there's some curves to the car. There we go. Very sporty, like what we saw on the Stinger of the past. And it almost has a bit of a hatchback-like look to it, or more so of a fastback. The illusion is it looks like it has a very short trunk. A lot of people think this will be our trunk line, but it's actually hinging right over here, so we have a good amount of space. The rear has a mix of regular LEDs and bulbs, so a nice futuristic tail lamp design, kind of mimicking what we see on the front end. The K4 badging is finished in the brushed aluminum that we saw up at the front, and same thing with our Kia emblem back here. Standard on this vehicle is a release for the cargo area, and that is so nice to have. A lot of manufacturers don't equip that on their compact sedans. Instead, you have to use your key fob or you got to do it from the driver's area. But in this car, we have the ability to press over here or simply walk up to the rear of your vehicle as long as the key is on you and it'll automatically open. So let's take a look. Now in our cargo area, we have about 413 liters of space, and that is a lot for a sedan. The opening is deceivingly small, but there is so much space back here. It's always so hard to show on camera because everything is of course lined in black fabric. Now a huge win of this compact is the fact that underneath your floorboard, you get a temporary spare tire, so a donut, if you'd like to call it that. But that again is something that a lot of compact sedans do not have, and it's such great peace of mind. If you do have a vehicle in the compact segment, chances are you might have a mobility kit, which is essentially an inflator with a sealant. And that's okay if you pick up a nail and your tire is starting to lose air. But if you experience a full blowout or something, irreparable on the highway or on the side of the road, this compact spare tire is going to be the only thing you can actually fix to get back to driving, unless you want to wait for a tow truck. If you want to do that, this vehicle does have 5 years, unlimited kilometers of roadside assistance, so you won't be stranded, and that's all throughout North America. All right, you guys, let's take a look at what else we get in the car. So for fuel tank size, we have a 47-liter tank, which is by no means that big to fill. However, you do get a very good driving range with the full tank. 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers, like I mentioned, and just regular unleaded fuel is necessary. Little sneak peek here, but the door to our rear seats actually has a pillar-mounted handle. That's a little bit different. That helps this vehicle keep that fastback-like style, and of course, the door handle is still completely functional, just in a different location. All right, you guys, one more thing on the exterior before we hop in. That is our turn signal indicators, which are mounted on the mirrors itself. So those are LED lights. You can see them from the rear because it does extend towards the side, so the flash will still be visible, and of course, it's visible to cars ahead of you too. All right. Now, before we hop in, you'll notice that both the driver and passenger front doors will have this little button here, and that allows for proximity entry. So as long as the key's on you, you'll press on that button there to unlock your car, and then when you're done driving, press it again to lock it. Such a small feature that's actually so convenient to have. I remember with my Forte, I would never know where my keys are. I would just hope they're somewhere on my body, and then walk up to the car and get in. On the driver's door, you'll see that we have our heated seat controls with 3 different levels, as well as our heated steering wheel with 2 different levels. So nice to have on fall days, spring days, and of course, winter. You can also pre-warm your vehicle from your smartphone thanks to the Kia Connect app. That's actually standard on this car, so regardless of your trim level, you can go in, start your car, hop in, and it's cooled from the AC or heated for the winter. It's very nice to have. That's free for 3 years, and then after that you can choose whether you want it or not. But you do have remote start built onto the key as well. Now I'm getting a little sidetracked, so let's get back into what this car has. Back to the driver door, you'll see we have a 2-tone finish, so a darker gray with a little bit of a lighter gray. Very modern, and you don't have to pay extra for that. Your speakers are going to be a 6-speaker regular in-house sound system. And then for your door area or controls, we got our mirror controls, so left and right, and then the power adjustments for direction. Lock and unlock, and then on the EX Plus, you'll get express windows for driver and passenger. All the trim levels below will only have it for the driver. Then you can see we have our window locks. To the side, before I hop in, we've got our vents, as well as our brightness adjustment. Oop, my gimbal's doing something. Okay. All right, our brightness adjustment, as well as our electronic parking brake and our traction control. Then, of course, you got your fuse panel, your hood release, your gas, your brake, and your dead pedal. The seat itself is a manual adjustment with both height and recline. And then to move the seat closer or further from the dash, you have the bar right underneath. Now here's a huge upgrade that the EX Plus adds on, and that is a leatherette seating material. So it's a slight two-tone with the inserts being a bit of a lighter gray. And when I say lighter gray, it is still very much dark. So I do not look at this cabin and think, oh, that's going to be a nightmare to clean. It's very, very forgiving. Leatherette is also very, very deceiving. It feels like a true leather. Kia does such a great job with it. You get a little bit of lighter stitching for contrast, and then the outer portions of the seats are a darker gray. I wouldn't say it's a true black, but it's very, very close. Your headrests are very, very wide, adjustable, and modern, and of course comfortable. And then we've got our steering wheel. Now the steering wheel is something that I was a little bit unsure about when the K4 first came out, but as I went to drive it more and more and use it, I grew to love it. The left-hand side will have your driver controls. So this is your cruise control. You'll turn it on with this button here, set your speed with the plus and minus, and then set the following distance with this car icon. To the right of that, you have a quick button to turn on or off your lane following assistance, which is standard on this vehicle. And then you got your drive mode select. Anytime you press your drive mode select, it'll allow you to put your car in normal or sport mode. Drive mode select is only available on the EX and above trim levels. So if you are shopping for the entry, for the entry LX, you will not have that option. Now for the fun stuff. Another EX Plus exclusive is this massive sunroof. So let's get a better look. Check it out. It is a wide style sunroof. So if you looked at the EX Plus on the Forte, it would have been a whole lot smaller. It's not a full panoramic, if that's what you typically look for in a sunroof, but it's pretty darn close, and you still get a very, very good vantage point from the rear seats. All right, back to what else we got in this vehicle. Warning you, it's a little bit hot in here, so I might lose my train of thought. But one thing I did want to point out is when I was doing car sales, most of the times I would ask my customers, what are your absolute must-haves? And a common one was, I want leather and a sunroof. Essentially, the EX Plus trim level, that's what it adds on. The EX below will have cloth seats with a lot of the similar tech and safety functions, but when you hop over to the EX Plus, you get those more premium comfort functions, all without sacrificing the fuel efficiency because you're not hopping into the turbocharged engine territory. So this trim is the highest you can get without getting a turbo, essentially. And all right, now back to what we get for screen and overall cockpit layout. A lot of horizontal lines again, just like what we saw in the design of the front end of the vehicle. Your screen is a 12.3-inch touchscreen with our new CCNC software. This software is fantastic because it integrates everything in a very tech-savvy format, except it is so easy to understand. So even if you're not a tech wizard, you can get this and it won't be any problem. Super easy to configure your menu the way you like it. It's very much like a smartphone. You kind of just drag and drop. If you'd like to, you can pull down the top of the screen and get some quick controls for things like the brightness, as well as add on more controls with this settings icon here. There is integrated driver profiles into this vehicle, so if you frequently share your car with somebody else, you can sign in with your different profiles and have everything saved to your separate accounts, so there's no fighting over radio station presets or that kind of thing. Underneath, we have some physical buttons and dials. So nice to have because as vehicles age, screens do get a little bit slower. And that is my major beef with Tesla. You guys, I'm going to get sidetracked for a second and just share a real world situation. When I first started in car sales, I sold a 2016 Tesla Model S, and it was 2020 when I sold it, so it was a few years old, but that screen was already getting kind of slow. So when you have to change everything, you know, like your air conditioning controls or heated seat controls through a screen, it gets a little annoying when your screen does slow down, because let's face it, it's inevitable. So such great peace of mind knowing you have physical buttons for, your frequently changed things. You got your hazard button here, as well as all of your AC controls just below. You'll set your fan speed on the far left, as well as your temperature. Everything is shown in a pretty easy to understand graphic. So of course, red for warmer, blue for cooler, and then everything in the middle is going to be relative to the direction of the airflow. You got your front and rear defrost, and a lot of illumination, so at nighttime everything is completely visible. Now just below, we have two USB-Cs. This one will be for charging and connectivity, and then the one on the right is simply for charging, and it's a faster charger. Just below that, we have a wireless phone charging pad that is slightly elevated to reduce the heat that your phone accumulates. So if you've used a wireless phone charger, you know your phone gets hot and that slows down the charging. This takes care of that and makes it an overall better experience. There's also a 12-volt inverter, harder push, there we go, for other accessories you may need to power with your car. Your gear shift is a regular lever style, so you can hold your hand on it while you drive, pretend you're in a manual again. And then to the left, we have our auto hold braking and a park view camera. You can press the park view camera to summon your backup camera as long as you're stationary. And then every time you throw your car into reverse, this comes up automatically. It looks a little crazy right now because I left the lift gate open, but you can tell the camera quality is very high definition. I mean, you can see all the slats on our ceiling. Luckily, we're not in a spot where we have stains on the ceiling, but typically you would be able to see that too. And it helps a lot when you are reversing your vehicle, because as you turn your steering wheel, the parking guidelines move with you, so you can see exactly where the rear end is going to add up. All right, let's talk about a couple other changes just to the steering wheel itself and my gauge cluster. So it looks like our gauge cluster is fully digitized because it is in a way, but it also isn't. So our speedometer and our tachometer are fixed there. They're always going to be displayed, and it is a digital unit. So, the car's not on, so I can't rev it up, but that will display accurately. However, the very centerpiece here is what you can control as a driver. So if I press this button right over here, I can cycle between my different menus. It always shows my distance to empty at the top. You can see my tire pressure accurate readings, as well as our current trip and fuel efficiency. This you can change based off whatever you'd like. And of course, if you are someone who frequently drives to, let's say, the States or somewhere else, you can adjust your kilometers per hour to miles per hour and vice versa. I think that's about it for what I want to talk about on the front end of the car. Let's take a look at the rear and then we'll do some questions. Let's go. Filming by myself is always a little interesting. The lights went out, so I'm just going to get those back on. They're motion censored. There we go. Now we can take a look. So the rear seats have definitely grown in space. You get a lot more legroom than what you had on the Kia Forte. It's actually class-leading rear legroom. So let's see what this class-leading hype is all about. Make sure I don't hit my head this time. So of course, in a compact sedan, you may not want to typically sit in the rear seat, but it's not a bad experience in this car. So the seats in their fixed position have a slight amount of recline to them, so you are comfortable. You're not perfectly straight up like a crazy person. You can relax a bit. The seats are also extremely wide, for the main seats, that is. So nice leatherette material again, which adds to the luxury and the comforts. Each seat will have your car seat anchors. And then in the very center, this will of course be our smallest seat, but it is still fairly wide and forgiving. The very middle has a slight hump, so if you are sitting in the very center seat, your feet will be slightly elevated, but it's not too high where you feel like you're completely hunched over. You do get rear ventilation, your fans over there, and then we have two USB-Cs and a small storage spot for a phone. The backs of the seats were very conveniently designed. It might look a little funky, but this little hump here actually doubles as a built-in hanger. So I know on Amazon people buy those, aftermarket coat hangers or bag hangers. Yeah, you don't need to do it on this car. It's built into the vehicle itself, looks good, and allows you to keep your stuff off of the ground. That way your rear passengers have complete and total legroom. Now I'm gonna try my best to DIY a little phone stand here. Oh, hello. Can you guys tell this is a live video? All right, let's see. Okay. I'm going to prop my phone here. Nope, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna prop my phone on the ground. And I think you guys might be able to take a look at legroom here. Don't mind my pink socks. All right, so I've got a ton of room to fully extend my legs if I'd like, and it's worth noting that the seat ahead of me is not fully up front. So we got a good amount of recline already and legroom for the driver itself. Knee room wise, I've got about 3/4 of my forearm, so a very, very good extension there. And then headroom, I am very comfortable. So a good amount of space headroom wise. This is always a super official measurement and it's always hard to show you guys, but let's see what you have to say in the questions. All right, so my phone should not fall from where I've left it. All right, Adele said iPad hangers. Gabby, when you say the screen slows down, do you mean there are software updates that eventually slow down the operation? No, so it's not software updates that slow it down. I think it was Apple that got a huge lawsuit or something against them for slowing down their old phones. It's not the vehicle or updates that are slowing it down, it's just time. Anytime you're, pulling up an old computer or anything like that, things do slow down tech-wise. That's why I'm really not a fan of everything being integrated into the screen. I don't mind it for, connecting Bluetooth or using your maps, Apple CarPlay, that kind of thing. But I don't feel like cars should make it that you have to adjust everything like your climate controls on a touchscreen. It's also distracting if you are driving and you want to make some tweaks. It's so much easier to just have, a button or a dial that you just muscle memory know how to adjust. So that's my 2 cents there. Does this vehicle not have dual zone climate control? No, so the EX Plus does not have the dual zone climate. How does the IVT perform under daily driving, especially under acceleration? Great question, Henry. And again, as someone who had a real ownership experience, I think it's totally fine. Now, in my opinion, the regular or normal drive mode wasn't exactly my favorite. I would always have in sport mode, just because I find it adapted to me way quicker and more so how I would like the acceleration to feel. So when you do have it in sport mode, if every touch of the gas, the vehicle is just more responsive, if that makes sense. That means if I had to quickly go around somebody or, avoid something, it was going to adapt quicker. But even in its normal mode, it is still fine. It just wasn't my standard, if that makes sense. But I'm also crazy. Okay. My phone went into thermal shutdown because the charging pad was too hot to begin with. Car was sitting in the sun combined with the heat from charging. Yeah, so unfortunately that is something that happens quite often in summer with black interiors and a wireless charging. There's really no way to avoid it for the most part, but if your car's been baking in the sun, the plastic area there is already going to be hot. Put your phone on there and it's going to get pretty hot. So that's why I always still like to keep an actual phone cable with me. That way, even if it's a regular day and your phone's in the wireless charger, let's say your passenger wants to charge their phone, you have other options. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention about the screen that I didn't earlier is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So this vehicle does not have integrated navigation in its software, but we do have, you see that little map button there? So that map button is essentially a way to jump your phone screen or your car screen directly into your Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze Maps, whatever you use. So whether you have an Apple phone or an Android phone, it's wireless connection. You do not have to plug your phone in. It'll automatically connect. And then you press map, auto jumps you right over there. Super, super convenient. MG said sport mode. Does that equal more fuel consumption? So yes and no. If you're driving relatively, calm, sport mode isn't going to put a major spark or, spike, in your fuel consumption. However, if you're like me, sport mode makes things feel a little bit more sensitive, which makes it a little bit more enticing to drive quickly. Then, yeah, you're going to have worse fuel efficiency. But it's not going to, completely change your 7.3 liters per kilometers and make it a, a 9.2 liters per 100. That's not what it's going to do. Is this car longer than usual compared to other cars? So it is longer than the Forte, however, it is not overly long. I've driven the K4 quite a bit. It is not hard to park at all, so it's still very much a compact. It also doesn't feel like you're driving a massive vehicle when you are driving it, It's pretty easy to put into spaces. However, it definitely, you feel the difference when you're sitting in the back row here. Another thing I wanted to highlight is they made some improvements to just the passenger comfort. So of course, the best seat in the house is being the driver of the vehicle, but the passenger seat itself actually has an adjustment that most cars in this segment do not have. That is a height adjustable seat. So as you can see here, we got our typical backrest or recline adjustment, but this over here, you can pump it up to raise the seat or pump it down to lower it. Again, most cars in this segment do not have that option, so very nice to have. Now, a lot of people do want power seats in their vehicle. Unfortunately, there's no power seat option in the naturally aspirated powertrain. This specific trim level will get you, the leather and the sunroof and the extra controls for your windows. But if you do want a power adjustment, you will have to go into the turbocharged engine territory. Wayne asked if I could please say Sportage. There you guys have it, Sportage. And I now see that we're at 30 minutes on a K4 video, so I think it's time we end off today's live stream car review. As always, please leave a like if you haven't already. We have 80 people on right now and only 47 likes. If we could get that number a little bit closer, I would be so grateful. And of course, it's free to do so, and it really makes a difference on this channel, so we certainly appreciate it. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope to see you again on next week's live stream car review starting Monday at 2 p.m. In the meantime, take care, and I just want to thank you all for your incredible support and kind words. You really make a difference on my life, and I hope you realize that a lot of you, especially our regulars, have become, first name bases in our household. So we'll talk about you, and people know who we're talking about. It's like we're friends. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Sorry, that was a little corny, but I just felt like I need to say that. We love you all. Bye-bye. Oh, sorry, Adele said, isn't it a holiday on Monday? Yes, it is. So I won't see you on Monday, but I'll see you on Tuesday. Take care.